This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Do the Math 24/7's Math Talk. We have a great episode today, and I'm definitely excited to talk with you two ladies. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate you guys coming. But before we go into our conversation, I first want to break down my company, Do the Math 24/7. So Do the Math 24/7 is a company with a positive message on respect, unity, and equality. We have several different ways in which we spread our positive message. We have a character building after school program. We have a school fundraising program. We have an apparel line. We have cartoon and action figures. And then we also have Do the Math 24/7's podcast. Now, Do the Math 24/7 stands for, we use the 5 basic math symbols to break down our positive message. So for add self-respect, add leadership, add empathy. For subtract bullying, subtract injustice, subtract racism. For multiply understanding, multiply love. For divide sharing. It's important for us to make sure that we're sharing with one another. And equal stands for equality, equal rights, and equal opportunity. 24/7 stands for all the time. So there you go. Do the math 24/7. So how you guys doing today?
Blessed, ready to be here.
Okay,
Good.
Good. So today we have a special, episode. We're going to be talking about Alzheimer's. And can I just say alt?
Alls. Because I know even back in the day we say old timers. I know some people still say old timers.
Okay.
But back in the day it was old timers. But it's alls. ALZ.
ALZ, alls.
Yeah.
Okay. But today I wanted to make sure that we bring you guys in. The last time I saw you two was at the My City, My Health, right? It was like a few months ago. So I first want to introduce Miss Keesha. Thank you for joining the episode.
Yeah.
And then Miss Erica, thank you for tuning in and for joining the episode as well.
Absolutely.
So first, how did you guys like My City, My Health? Let's just first, kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump right in. So I go every year.
Okay.
And I'm always excited about, who's coming up to the stage. So one thing I've always said is there is no other conference like My City, My Health because we all get the same information together. We all get to have more conversations together and not going into breakout rooms. That is something that I've told Corey and Larry that I feel like you just don't find that anywhere else with any other conference. And so this past year was no different than being in community, watching it grow, seeing the, great community leaders on that stage and watching them engage with us, like genuinely engage with us. So I had a time. Oh, and it was nice this year having the live podcast like going on too. Like that was phenomenal. So that was a really great way for people to kind of know too. Especially if you missed it, who was in the building.
Right.
So, yeah.
This past year was my first year attending, and I thought it was amazing, very well done. I love how much people were engaged in the way that they were asking questions, very thought-provoking, and it was just re-energizing and a great way to meet different people in the community and connections that I made that day that around initiatives that I'm working on with brain health. And so it was amazing, and it's interesting. I've kind of known Corey for a long time, but from a friend connection that he's married, his wife is a very good friend of mine from my hometown. But just to see all the things that he's working on and all the different panels that were put together, just really impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely. I was actually a moderator for the Men's Health. That was my first time being a part of it. And it was great, just like you said, like the questions and just the conversation. So, and also just the action steps, just something that, you definitely want to make sure when you're part of something like that you leave with something.
Yeah.
Right. You leave with something to where it can kind of, help you out down the road. But Keesha, let's first, if you want to, let's say, how would you introduce yourself as far as, and what you do in the community and why you do what you do as far as currently?
Yeah, so a lot of people know, number one, I love coming outside. I love being outside. I love being in community. I just love the people. I love ensuring that folks have the same level of access. And that's why with the Alzheimer's Association, that's why I connected, I was able to connect with it well. Even, you get asked the question all the time, oh, why did you apply for this position? And, of course, I have a family connection. I lost my grandmother to dementia. We don't know what form of dementia, and we also lost my great uncle to Alzheimer's. And so that connection, but also knowing that it's so cool to be able to get creative in how you work to bring people together for a cause. So knowing that I already had this deep connection, I'm already heavily involved in the community, right? That this next step forward into the Alzheimer's Association is, man, let's do this together. Like, let's make sure we're rallying around each other. Let's go get this money so we can do this research so that we really can get to a cure. And so being at the Alzheimer's Association has been, everything for me. It has it's really shown what it looks like when communities step up. When we show up for each other, when we rally around each other. And so I'm the director of development at the association, and one of the main areas that I oversee is Walk to End Alzheimer's. And a lot of people might not know this, but we have 19 walks across the state.
Wow, 19
walks. So, we're in rural areas. Listen, we're from Muscatine to Council Bluffs to Iowa City to Ames, right? Of course, right here in Des Moines, Dubuque, right? And so we want to make sure that we truly are in community. And, walk is like it's a celebration together. It's like, look how far we've come. Look at the great things that you all have done, all year long leading up to this time. And it's about community. It's about fundraising. It's about getting companies involved. And that's what matters in the end is when I said being outside, being in community, and then full circle, here we are. Yeah.
And yourself, Erica, what is actually your role at
Sure.
in the association?
Yeah, so my role is to really be out in the community. I manage all of the programming that we offer to communities, and also help assist with all the support groups that we have in the state. So currently we have about 60 support groups throughout a lot of different communities that we serve. We have some mostly in person, but we do have some that are virtual only, so that if there's a caregiver out there that, they can't leave the house, or they're helping to care for someone from another state, really gives them that flexibility there. So what really, I guess, ignites me or makes me excited about the role that I'm in is my journey with the disease started, I think, in about 2004. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's and then eventually dementia as well. And so I saw that through the perspective of my mother taking care of my father and doing such an amazing job. But I really understood that when you're a caregiver, you really have to have a good support system and a good team of people helping you. So I'm very fortunate to be the youngest of 6 kids. We were able to rotate weekends to give my mom breaks. And then unfortunately, it hit us again in 21. My mom was diagnosed with vascular dementia. And I stepped more into that primary caregiver role. And it just really, when I came to the association and saw the opening, what really spoke to me is my parents taught us to have, a service heart, to serve our community, to help others. And what drives me day after day is I had more of that small town rural experience with my parents, in which maybe I didn't feel it was the best because the doctors weren't educated, or I didn't know what I didn't know in the way of how to advocate for them. And so I'm here every day to help caregivers to understand how to advocate for their loved ones and how to make sure that they're being supported and being given the best care possible.
Okay. So in some ways you have, you could be somewhat more empathetic for the rural areas because of limited access and different things like that. So how does that feel knowing that sometimes rural areas are neglected as far as we're given those resources? How does that feel?
I feel it in the way that one of the initiatives that we're working on through a BOLD grant we have with the state of Iowa is we are really trying to work on helping what we consider underserved communities of the state. That could be based on rural versus urban. It could be based on race, based on culture, based on, just a lot of different factors. And so I'm really excited that, I try to think with that perspective of the rural person and what can we do in those areas. And one thing we're given the amazing opportunity to do at the beginning of March is we, as a nonprofit, were given a table at this huge Midwest Farm Show coming up at the beginning of March at the University of Northern Iowa at the big Unidome.
Okay.
And I'm just blown away that for 3 days we get to try to reach as many in the farming communities within Iowa as possible.
Time for that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
So, I'm picturing that we're going to have a banner with a brain riding a tractor,
Okay.
to make it fun and get people over to our table. But yeah, I think it's just
Conversation piece.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
conversation piece, get people talking, right? So, always thinking of ways that we can make sure that everybody is represented and they know that we're there. So, if I had one word to say of what I do, it's awareness.
Yeah, awareness. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in this happy feeling mood right now. So I'm going to ask you a question, Keesha.
Okay.
What are some highlights that really hits home for you as far as what you do?
Oh man, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll kind of expand on it. I think, and that is being able to get creative, like kind of think outside of the box of how we go out and reach the people, how we go to the people, especially before they need us. And I feel like you don't always get to see that often with a lot of organizations, being able to go outside of the box a little bit, right? I know oftentimes it's, nope, we fully need to go by this script, this, right? Exactly what this looks like. It's like, but that doesn't always work. Right. When you're trying to connect with people, with different people from all types of backgrounds, people who have higher incidences of, right, a disease like Alzheimer's. And what I would say a highlight, what I truly love is, I have an awesome team of 7 walk managers across the state that are in the rural areas, that are in, the bigger cities and those in between, that they know that they get to go out and be as creative, thought-provoking, that they can come up with new ideas of how do I get people together? How do I encourage people to fundraise for this cause? How do I get people to volunteer their time, energy, expertise? And when you're able to get creative like that, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And that is something, last year was my first full year at the association. And one thing that we heard as a team was, guys, we've been hearing a lot out in the community that people have seen more of us. And, our constituents are saying that they have been seeing more of us out here. And that's exactly what we need to be doing.
Right.
And it can't be a one-size-fits-all type of ordeal. You have to consider the area that you live in, the areas that you're, trying to touch. And so that's a highlight for me is I'm always like, yeah, let's do this. Let's think big. Let's think bold. Let's forget what, society thinks we should be doing. Like, let's go big with everything that we do. And just build on what we've seen as successful. That's the number one highlight for me. But the second one I would say is seriously being able to walk side by side with local companies in this fight, because at least like more than half of a company's workforce has some type of connection to the disease, right? Whether a CEO or an executive director knows it or not, their employees have some type of connection.
Right,
so to be able to go out and explain that and connect with them in those ways and say, that's why we need to be walking side by side in this, those are the highlights for me.
because it hits home.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. What about you, Erica?
I think every year when I show up to any of our walks, but specifically the Des Moines one, just because I've been doing it the longest. I walked for the first time in 2013 and have done every year since. But seeing the community and just a big sea of purple shirts, right? That's what gets me going, gets me motivated. And I think that's where people see, if they're not already a part of a support group, that's where people see, I am not alone.
Right.
There are so many other people fighting this fight with me, and there's so many people that want to help, and so many great resources out there. That really gets me going. And then I think the second thing is, I'm always looking for, who have we not reached yet? What communities do we need to get to? But I think the biggest thing for me is realizing that, the work that Keesha and I do, we can't do it alone. We rely on a lot of volunteers. And I think volunteers are so important because the communities that they live in, they know the people the best.
Right.
I mean, I can show up somewhere and do a presentation and give information, but in certain communities where, perhaps there hasn't been a lot of presence or a lot of assistance, they just want to know that people are going to show up, that people, it takes a while to build that relationship and to build that trust. And so
Absolutely.
I really think the more volunteers we can get in as many communities within the state, the better, because I want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you guys, you two, for sharing that. So what if, let's say someone was at an event that you guys had a table and they're asking, what is Alzheimer's? How would you guys break that down?
Yeah. So without being, I guess, too clinical or reading right from a script, right? It's basically, seeing in yourself or in a loved one that they're having more issues with memory, with thinking, with reasoning. But it's really, when you look at, there's 10 basic warning signs, and I won't go through all of them, but, as you were kind of saying before that, you could look at someone and not have any idea that they have Alzheimer's, right? And then another person, that they're very forgetful, they're leaving things everywhere. And I think when it comes down to what we're trying to focus on in that area of detection is, you could have a friend or a neighbor that is having more anxiety, having more health issues, having more stress. That could be some early signs that there's something not right. Whereas, that neighbor, that's already forgetful and is already misplacing his keys and everything, he may already be in the mid stage of the disease. So I really think it's just understanding how things change, what to look for in those warning signs. For example, if I'm having, one thing I noticed with my mom first and foremost was that she thought her vision had changed. Went to the eye doctor. They said nothing was wrong, but she still insisted something wasn't right. A few months later, she started having little fender bender accidents with her car. And then I started putting it together that, no, her prescription hadn't changed, but her peripheral vision had changed, her spatial awareness, her depth perception. That's what was being impacted, which is a big sign of dementia, Alzheimer's. And so, it's understanding and putting that together, and it's really making sure that we're all going to the doctor on a regular basis, getting an annual physical. And, if you've got that family history there, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and say, should I be concerned about this? Is there other testing that I can have done now? Can you do a mini cognitive assessment on me? But really, when you're looking at Alzheimer's, it's really just that loss of memories, that problems with thinking. You're not making those connections in the brain like you used to.
Okay. So why is it, when it comes to Alzheimer's, it's kind of like this thought that it's an older age, right? So let's be like Mythbusters right now. Can we be some Mythbusters right now?
Yeah.
Bust some myths, right?
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it like that? I mean, it's even on TV. You think that Alzheimer's, it's a, kind of an elderly person. So why?
Well,
And that's for any of you. I mean,
yeah, jump in whenever you'd like, but
Go ahead. You want to? Okay, I'll
You
jump
go ahead
in.
first.
Listen, so I feel like oftentimes that is, I kind of go back a bit, right? That's who we saw, right? When we were hearing that people were being diagnosed, our people in our families, people that we knew by way of friends or colleagues, they were always much older people, right? I feel like growing up, that's why we called it old timers. That's what we saw. We had no idea it was Alzheimer's back in the day. Like, that was the actual term, but that's who we saw. We saw older people. We didn't, today I think about it, maybe the assumption is people didn't want to come to the realization that they may be facing that, right, at that younger age, or they didn't know what was going on. They weren't educated. So, yeah, what's happening to me? It's not something that, you feel like younger people are just open to talking about because of the perception of this is for old people, right? And so, but what we know, Erica, you mentioned it earlier, is that it is there 20 years before you're even diagnosed. And that, but again, don't we walk around and you go, what's a name? Dang, right? We forget stuff all the time. Dang, what the heck did I eat for breakfast yesterday? And, people just don't, especially younger people, you don't immediately go to, man, I might be starting to have some memory issues. This just might be, you know what? I just might be a little stressed, or my brain is too full, or whatever that, I've seen that too. But we growing up, having two people in my family that had it, I saw people 60, 65 plus that had it. Never heard anything about anyone younger. I didn't even know that was a thing.
But it is.
Yeah,
it is.
It just wasn't.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, I remember as a child, when I would ask my mother why somebody very active was no longer out in the community, they seemed to become more of a shut-in, right? And my mom would use the term senile a lot. And she would make it seem like it was normal, or that, that just happens. If you're lucky enough to make it to 80, you're going to get dementia. And I think, one reason that we still kind of think it's an old person disease is if we look at it just from a statistical standpoint, the number one risk factor for getting Alzheimer's is being over the age of 65.
Okay.
But then we also have to consider the other part, that a lot of it is our genetics. And so if we know that we have that history in our family, that should be a little bit of an alert to us. But yeah, I think it's just, we didn't hear as much about those getting diagnosed at a younger age, especially when you look at other types of dementia like frontal temporal dementia or Lewy body's disease. Those usually are diagnosed before the age of 65.
Okay.
And so I think we're better educating people, and we're spreading more awareness that, yes, this could hit your family at a younger age. And so like you said, Keesha, it's getting rid of that stigma of it's only an old person disease, or if I start forgetting things more and more, that's just normal aging. And I think that's the biggest myth that we try to bust with people is it is not normal aging. When I do presentations, I try to give a really bold example, and I say, if you're running late for work in the morning and you can't find your car keys and you're all worked up because you're running late now, you're not thinking as clearly, right? But you still have that ability to pause, to retrace your steps, and eventually you go, oh, I put them on the counter last night instead of on the hook by the door, I usually do because I brought in groceries and I had a lot in my hands and I just left them somewhere else, right? But I said the difference for someone that's experiencing cognitive decline, they lose those keys, they look all over for them, they can't find them. They might even get to the point where they say, well, if I can't find them, my husband took them because there's no way I misplaced my keys. And then 3 days later, where do I find my keys? In the refrigerator. Yeah. Like, that's the difference.
It's interesting too. There's a new show that I started watching called Memory of a Killer. I don't know if it,
I haven't started yet.
You haven't started it yet,
okay.
so I
I've
won't.
heard of it.
Okay, so when I first saw this show, the main character is McDreamy from from Grey's Anatomy. Right. I'm sorry, McDreamy is what I know. So McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy, right? And so I remember I started watching it before I watched a trailer or read a synopsis or anything, and I went, Memory of a Killer. I wonder if this is about Alzheimer's. And so I was like, let me look. And it is. He lives a double life. He lives a double life as, this family man, and on the other side, I can't remember if he's like CIA or something, but he's like a sniper, right? That his family doesn't know about. But the two start to collide because he is he's showing signs of Alzheimer's, memory of a killer. So, I feel like especially with in today's age, especially younger people, if you like those type of like, because it is a thriller, right? It's like a thriller too, and that's a really great way to start. You hear the doctors talking to him because it runs in his family, right? And he knows, he's hearing from the doctor, these are the early signs, maybe you forget your key code to your own house, and he starts to forget his key so just kind of throwing that out there for something that's televised today. That's relevant.
Well, I think it also speaks to the fact that people who are having memory related issues, how long do you think they hide it before someone else notices or they admit that they have a problem? A lot of people live in denial. Yeah,
and that's something I was gonna. One of my next questions is, what do you say to that person that maybe know they have dementia and you're used to seeing them in the community? They're doing they're very active, right? But then they stop because they're embarrassed, or they feel like because they're so used to being in control of everything, then they lose that, and then like the social part, may kind of dwindle or decrease and whatnot. So what do you say to that person, knowing that, they may just be embarrassed, and and maybe they are getting checked up on, but as far from a social standpoint, what do you say to that person, knowing that they're losing that social part?
Gosh,
because of being embarrassed.
I always think of it as any time that in our lives we have something tragic happen, we go through those 5 stages of grieving, right? And obviously that first one is denial. And so I think for me, what I really try to draw from is when I'm giving an awareness presentation to a group, and I don't know who has Alzheimer's, who doesn't, who is having memory-related issues, all that, but I really talk to everyone about the benefits of early detection and how we shouldn't be embarrassed or afraid, because the science has shown us in the last few years that if we can catch it quick enough, and it's Alzheimer's specifically, there are wonderful IV medications out there that are actually changing the progression of the disease. But we have to catch it in that early stage. Otherwise, it's not effective. But it's actually removing those plaques and tangles from the brain and keeping people at the early stage longer. But I think, when it comes to just not living in fear. I mean, my mom came from a generation, gosh, she was even pre-boomer, where everything to her was really private. You don't talk about your health. You don't talk about your finances. You don't let people know your personal business. That was just her generation. And I think, just being able to share things with her and let her know that, you don't have to be scared. There's so much more information and resources and help out there than there was 20, 30, 40 years ago, that, a lot of people think, we have to keep this within our family, within our culture, within our community. But I think you have to look at that other side of it of, if I raise my hand and I get them help, they'll see more benefits now. And also to the point of, when you think, all of us, we don't want to lose our cognition, our memory, and all of that. But I just think if I got to that point, I hope that I catch it soon enough that I can tell my family, these are my final wishes. This is how I want things to go for me. These are my advanced directives. So that I can still feel like I have some control and say in what's going to happen to me.
Keesha, when we were in the lobby before we started recording, you mentioned sometimes how trauma can affect memory.
Yeah.
Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah. So, when it comes to trauma, it could be physical or psychological trauma, right, that could impact our memory. So, for instance, someone who hits their head, right, maybe takes several blows to the head over time, right? You think about boxers, you think about the psychological trauma that one may go through, even starting from childhood, right? How it starts to impact the part of your brain where your memory is, and that could lead to Alzheimer's. A lot of people don't realize that, right? So sometimes it's like, oh yeah, maybe you're predisposed because it runs in your family, or maybe you isolate yourself more often. But it's like, man, no, like, think about what we know sometimes about brain development in young children.
Right.
I used to be an infant teacher back in the day at Iowa State, and those first 5 years are the most critical, for instance, right, to brain development. Even so, the things that we experience throughout our lives, our brain's response to it is heavily impacted, right? And our memory begins to become impacted. I literally just saw something on social media in a group that I'm in for DNA, looking for relatives and things like that through searches, and someone came in and said, has anyone heard from the woman that said that she doesn't remember giving birth? Right. And so, kind of reading the comments, and it's like, well, there's a trauma response when, when you go through something traumatic during childbirth. Maybe you were really young and you were heavily sedated, or, right, how this child came about, right? That's another, more trauma responses. I try to relate some things to what I hear today, but all of that could impact your memory later in life. And that's what I meant earlier about, trauma to the head, trauma, psychologically, mentally. You think about, the meds that we take today, right? Especially a combination of meds that you take on a daily basis. It impacts your memory as well, right? Like, we've seen that, especially in people that deal with mental health challenges and things like that, and their day-to-day, and maybe not remembering what really transpired, prior, the day before. And so that can also cause your brain, right, your memory to be impacted, and where it could lead to Alzheimer's or any other type of dementia. And for anybody, and if you don't know, so this is how I like to explain dementia versus Alzheimer's. So dementia is the fruit group. I think of a food group, right? So it's fruit. Dementia is fruit. Alzheimer's is a type of fruit. So you have your overarching dementia, and then you have your types of dementia, and Alzheimer's is one. Yep, it's just the most common. So that's why it's, we're called the Alzheimer's Association. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything, but
well, no, it's interesting because when you think about someone that that has had the disease, or especially in my case, neither of my parents got the official Alzheimer's diagnosis. But you go back and you think, how did they get it? What caused it for them, right? And so as I've learned over the last several years, one thing that shocked me that I heard at a conference by Dr. Shaw at Broadlawns is he said, if you're a person that takes Benadryl, for example, you take it 4 or 5 times a night for 3 years or more, what you're going to impact your brain, and you're going to put yourself at a higher risk of dementia. Because he said that use it for the intended purposes, for allergies, right? But if you're intentionally using it as a sleep aid, after that 3-year period, the part of your brain that regulates when you should be awake and when you should be sleeping, it's really gets messed up. And that part of the brain is really close to the memory center of the brain. And so it's interesting to even learn those little things of, gosh, something that I can buy over the counter.
Right,
If
come
I
on.
use it,
Yeah.
if I use it for the wrong purpose,
Yeah.
it's going to damage my brain. And so, yeah, it's just really interesting from that perspective. And with my dad, I think what really started for him was he had a non-cancerous brain tumor, and it was right on his frontal temporal lobe. And you can't tell me that didn't do a lot of damage long term. That for him was a trauma, right? And I attended a wonderful conference last week or two ago that was about players in the NFL and how having more CTEs and concussions and things like that, those type of brain injuries, is putting them at a higher risk. But when I think about my dad too, I think about my dad was an over-the-road truck driver and didn't get more than probably 5-6 hours of sleep ever. And did he really get good, deep, quality sleep? Probably not, especially having 6 kids too. But I think about that when we talk to people about 10 healthy habits for your brain is what we promote. And sleep is one of them. And the biggest thing I learned about sleep recently is that it's not necessarily how much you get, even though you should try to get that 7-8 hours. It's how much of that deep REM sleep are you getting?
Okay.
Because they say when you're getting that deep sleep, that's when you're washing away all of those bad proteins in the brain that are what eventually become those plaques and tangles and webs and becomes that Alzheimer's disease.
That good sleep. Y'all need to
That
get
good sleep.
that good
That
sleep.
good Right.
Deep
Yeah,
sleep,
there's
where
a
you wake up
difference.
and you're like, where am I?
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those preventative things that we can do. Just simple things that can help us out. What are some of those both of you guys can share?
Like I said, there's 10 of them. But I think the way that I try to break it down for people is you can categorize some of them into what health conditions do I have, whether they're genetic or not. And even if I am more predisposed to having diabetes, or there's a history of heart disease in my family, or I'm carrying a little bit of extra weight, what I tell people is work with your doctor, keep your numbers within normal range, whether that's high blood pressure, cholesterol, et cetera. But
That means go to the doctor, y'all.
To know.
Exactly.
To know the
You gotta
level.
go,
Yes.
you gotta go to the doctor, y'all.
Know your numbers. I tell people know your numbers, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, get to the doctor and ask what are my numbers. So we kind of categorize it that way, and then we, mental health is really important. So we talk a lot about the importance of self-care.
Self-care.
We talk about the importance of the quality sleep. We talk about the benefits of cognitive engagement. So when I go to presentations, I look at everyone and I say, what if I told you that you could prevent dementia if you went out and got your PhD tomorrow? And they all look at me like, seriously, that's what we have to do? And I go, no. It's just, how are you challenging your brain to learn new things? Are you taking on new information, creating new memories, making those connections in your brain? So let's say you love playing solitaire on your phone when you're waiting at the doctor's office. But if you've mastered it and you're an expert at solitaire, swap it out for something else. Learn Sudoku, learn, words with friends, whatever it might be. But just find something that continues to challenge your brain every day. And I think, we talked about social aspect of it. Don't close yourself off from people. And I've had introverts say to me, I'm not really a people person. Are you sure about that? And I say, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Even if you have one friend that you have lunch with every week and you talk about whatever's going on, that's social engagement.
It's social engagement.
Yeah.
Right. Don't isolate yourself.
Right.
Or
Don't
not all the
isolate
time.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and
Don't live in it. Don't live in it.
no. And it's interesting that we just came out with research that we did for a couple of years called the U.S. Pointer Study. And it really talked about how we need to have more structure, even if we are someone that's been diagnosed, let's say, with mild cognitive impairment. It's kind of a pre-Alzheimer's diagnosis. If we still follow those habits of exercising, eating right, learning new things, being socially active, we can still slow things down or even make improvements.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick shout out to, I want to give a shout out to Aiki. And the reason why is, but when Keesha and I was in the lobby talking to the owner of the podcast umbrella, Amplify DSM, we were talking about dementia. Yeah. And one thing that Amner said was, he admired the fact that how Aiki is always researching things. He's always learning new things. He's always immersed in trying to learn new things. So clap it up for Aiki.
Ooh, yes.
Just making sure that, he's constantly learning something, And it was cool just for Amner to say that. It was just the right time, but that is something that we should all do.
Yeah.
Making sure that even if it's just reading something, just to kind of make sure that plaque, right? Make sure the plaque doesn't sit in, and we're constantly learning from one another and just learning different things in general. So, and of course, exercise, movement, and different things like that. But I do have a few questions, and I kind of want to go over a few of them. Let me see here. For the high-risk groups, who is the most at risk for dementia, and what factors increase that risk?
You want me?
You start off.
So of course, we always talk about age, right? Age, those that are in rural areas. You think about lack of access, but also Black people, women. So I'll never forget my second day at the association, and I was kind of going through some training, and one of the first slides that came across that screen were, who's at the highest risk, what populations, and to see Black people, and then next to see women. So my brain went, Black women, what the heck? Right? Sometimes it always seems
Glad
like
you came back for the second day.
She's like, here we go again.
Here we go again.
The first one to die in a horror movie.
Right. It's like, dang, here we go. But hearing that, seeing the conversations that are having around that we're having around that, just not here locally in Iowa, but across the country, it made me want to ensure that I was out in the community talking about it, because I'll be honest, things that I felt like, I was showing up to in some spaces related to Alzheimer's. How often do you see Black people in those spaces?
Not a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, people, we did, I think it was for Juneteenth last year. We had a table presence for Juneteenth in Des Moines, outdoors, and it was for Iowa Juneteenth. And what did I say? I said about 95% of the Black people that stopped by our table said that they have some type of connection to the disease. And I, again, going back to trying to find new ways to get people connected, and that first bit is, of course you want to educate them, but it's like, how do you start to build trust in that moment with them so that they can come get educated or can receive this information the right way? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you know what? I think you need to be at A, B, and C with me. I'm gonna send you a personal invitation. I'm gonna call you, right? So it's making those intentional efforts, knowing this information about us. I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna let you know what we got going on, and I want you to physically show up. I want you to bring somebody with you, a colleague, a family member, whatever that is, because literally 95% of the people that came to that table, Black people, had some type of connection. Those are the people we need to ensure that we're reaching. Just like I talked earlier about what I do. I love ensuring that folks have the same level of access.
Right, come on.
Yes.
Right, to what we need.
Yes.
And we need, so we talk about Black sororities and fraternities, NPHC, right? Like, starting to engage with some of those folks, like, this is where y'all need to be. Come receive this information. Come be in community with us. I like to say, come party with us. It's also a celebration of the work that we're doing and what y'all doing. Yes. So I wanted to say that because that really stood out to me on my second day at the association. Like, dang, we at the top again. For being at a higher risk. But we gotta, talking about it more. We have to continue to build on that here in the community. We saw, I would say, I saw a lot more Black community members at our walk. We had several of them show up for some other events that we've hosted more recently in the past year. And that tells me, like, they're serious about it and they're ready to go spread the word.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like Keesha, you hit on a really good point that, it is access to healthcare. It is, getting rid of old assumptions and stigmas sometimes too, because, when I talk about our trial match program that we have at the association, I tell them about, anyone can sign up for a free profile. You can see what research trials are going on locally and nationally. And if you have that link, or even if you don't, anybody can sign up for a free profile and help with a trial, because you might be able to get access to a medication before it's out on the market, those kind of things, right? But I understand, especially in the Black community, that there's a little bit of apprehension there, right, for a lot of different historical reasons. But I was at our leadership summit last year in Atlanta, and we had several leaders saying, I understand that, but I also take that approach that I kind of think about it as, like, you're the Aaron Burr in Hamilton. Like, I want to be in the room where it happens. Because if I'm not a part of those trials, how do I know that all of the things that they're doing are going to benefit my community? And so it's getting over that fear and saying, I need to make sure that my people are being represented.
Yes. When you think about health equity, it's important that we all have access, right? But it's also important that knowing that you do have access, but you need to get out there and take care of the access. And,
Come on.
You know, because you want to share something, I don't know, a little comment on that. But that it is true, though. It's like, because I think that there needs to be more health equity, but we got to do our part.
Yeah. Got to come receive it.
We got to come receive. And you know what? And I understand as far as my parents were like the baby boomers. I understand like the older generation and what's been kind of passed down, right? And what we've seen, so to speak. But it's a new day too.
It's a new day, and folks today they're out
especially
here.
With information age now and AI and so many other things. So
the thing I try to tell people too is, if you go to a doctor and you don't like them, you're not getting the care you need, move on. Get a second opinion. Go to someone else. You've got to advocate for yourself too.
Advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
So what can we do as a community, churches, social clubs and whatnot? What can we do to make sure that the information is getting out there? And that's to both you guys. What can we do? And not necessarily just the Black community, but just just in general.
As a community.
What do you need from us? What do you need from us? What do you need from the community? What do you need from the churches to make sure the word's getting out there? Can we just be real?
Yeah.
What y'all need?
Let's be real, because what's the focus of ours for this year is having the relationships with the churches, and what we're going to need is for, we talk about like us showing up and coming to folks, trying to get to folks before they need us. We need them to literally show up to a thing. I'm at the point, well, all last year too, but I've been at the point where I just pick up the phone and I go, what are you doing next week on Thursday at 9 a.m.? I really need you to be here. And I really need you to bring your colleagues, bring your, whoever that is. And that's the same approach that we're taking, that I plan on taking with the churches this year, is showing up with them. Listen, there's a church here that they have a Alzheimer's group within the church, right? I haven't engaged with them, but I want to show up, with them and go, listen, this is why it's important for you. Come on, y'all clearly know the impact in here because you already have your own group related to Alzheimer's here. Now I want you to come come get some more information from us, right? Yes. Come learn more. Come learn about how you can have a higher impact in your church community, right? And then you're in your church community, then outside of the church, right? Because usually it's, all right, let's figure out what's happening at home for a second, right? So you're engaging with the congregation, Now let's go do this work outside of the church. Yeah. And so, but what I feel like we need is, I know some of y'all be seeing my social media posts when y'all see it. Y'all supposed to show up. Show up. I'm not playing. So, but that's the thing. The first step is to show up. One of our events that we hosted, when I said I picked up the phone and started calling, the connections that I had whom I knew had not connected yet with the association. The first step for them was saying, yes, I'll be there. Right? They showed up. They engaged with the other people in the room. They sat. They received this information from us that we were presenting to them, and then they went, all right, I want to register for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Okay. I want to build a team. I want to start really getting the word out there. I'm going to take this back to work. I'm going to take this back to my fraternity, my sorority, whatever that is. But those were the steps that they took. They first said yes. Then they showed up. They engaged in the space. They received this information and said, they asked questions, and then they said, ready for action. Let's go. Tell me what to do.
Yeah, and that's good. But there needs to be more.
Yes,
right? There needs to be more. And one thing I'm kind of thinking about is, how fair is it for the rural areas?
Yeah.
To not even get the funding, not get as much funding, but then there could be a whole pot of money in these inner cities, these metropolitan cities, nationwide. I'm not just saying Iowa, you know what I mean? But and they can be not getting as much resources. So, just kind of consider them too. That money be going elsewhere if y'all don't, because everybody need it, right? And then I think, and that's part of health equity too, right? Come on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Rural areas, right?
They
need that access. So
I think it's great that in the last year, we've started 2 brand new support groups that are virtual only. So they're out. We have one that is just, they're both for everybody, but one of them focuses more on, if I'm in that sandwich generation where I'm taking care of my own kids and now I'm taking care of an elderly parent, that's difficult. That's kind of unique. And so we have a support group that's really for I'm the child of someone with dementia, but I'm an adult, and how do I balance both ends of the spectrum there? We have another one that's just a great one that anybody can join. And sometimes people even from out of state join that one, even though I'd like to see more in-state participation. And we have a Lewy body group that is specific just to that disease, that also has a virtual links through it. So I think it's continuing to think creatively. I think that one of my focuses for this year is, how can I get in front of more health systems, public health departments, and just see, like Keesha said, finding that person that's on board with you, that's excited, that says, you know what, I'm a difference maker in my community, and I'm going to share this with other people, and I'm going to be that supporter for you that gets other people fired up.
Okay. No, that's good. I do have a off the subject question though. How can we better support caregivers? What are you guys doing to help support caregivers, right? Those family members that are helping out that may miss 2 or 3 meals, or or just don't even have a lot of times the mental space to even deal with that person because they got their own stuff going on, right? That's just real. So how can we take care of these caregivers?
I think the biggest thing sometimes is that, gosh, even myself, I can say there's times that I'm afraid to ask for help. I want to show that I can handle it on my own, that I'm strong enough, that I can do this. But gosh, it's such a hard task to take on, that when I talk to caregivers at programs and support groups, and even in the community, people just call me and say, hey, heard you work for the Alzheimer's Association. What can you do to help me out? And so what I say to them is that you've got to have a good team of people. But I said, you got to think outside the box, that maybe there's something that a friend or a family member could take off your plate that's not directly related to the caregiving you're giving to your loved one, but helps you. Could they help get you set up on auto bill pay? Could they order your groceries for you? Could they make doctor appointments for you? Like I think of that just, from being from a bigger family and having a sister who lived in Arkansas at the time. She was like, what can I do? I can't be there. And so you really had to think about
pay these bills.
Exactly. Like, no, I said, you're
Pick
going
up a bill or two.
I was like, your job is to review all of mom and dad's bills because caregiving is expensive. I said, tell us where we can cut some corners. Tell us where we can get on budget billing. Tell us, do we get rid of the cable TV, right? So really just thinking outside the box in that nature and knowing that when someone says to a caregiver, what can I do to help you? Take them up on it.
Take them up, right.
Yeah, don't just say, no, I'm good, I got this. And I even tell people that are not caregivers that if they know someone with dementia, reach out and don't say, how can I help? Reach out and say, I'm bringing you a meal on Wednesday. Do you want steak or chicken? And just not being aggressive about it, but just saying like, I'm really serious about helping you.
Yeah.
And to know that no matter where you are in the state, we have staff all over. We're not just right here in Des Moines, right? We may have an office here in Des Moines, but that doesn't mean this is the only place we are. We have staff all over the state. So being able to go to our website, alz.org/Iowa, you'll be able to see where we are near somewhat. We are near. Right.
Well, and I can't believe we haven't mentioned the fact that we have a 24/7 helpline.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I give presentations, I usually start off the presentation. I say, how many of you know that we have a 24/7 helpline? Couple people out of 20 maybe raise their hand.
Yeah.
So I always say, call our helpline anytime, night or day, 1-800-272-3900. They're all master level clinicians that answer the phone. They're there all the time. They're there. They offer it in over 240 languages.
Oh, wow. Come on.
They do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They offer it for people who are hearing impaired. Like they are there to help. And sometimes, like you said, living in that rural community and not knowing where to go, start there.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a care consultation with you. They're going to tell you about local resources in your area. They're going to get you going in the right direction. And also, we have a new app that came out last year called My All's Journey that anybody can download for free on whatever platform you use, and you can approach the questions and it'll take you down a path based on, am I the person with dementia or am I the caregiver? So you've got that app at your fingertips that a lot of families when they go to the doctor, and this was my experience. I went to the doctor with my mom. We did a big interview process. My mom did not get a mini cognitive assessment. She did not get referred on to a neurologist. But that rural family physician looked at me and said, it's probably dementia. And I went, what now? And he basically looked at us and said, she probably has about 5 years, so just go home and get her affairs in order and take the best care that you can. And I was just floored, right? So getting a diagnosis like that, whether it's specific or not, you're like, what next?
Right, yeah.
I don't know where to go from here. They didn't really give me much, right? And so having even an app like that or having the phone number at your fingertips, it's a start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys listen to that?
Yeah.
You want to give that number again?
Sure.
Okay.
1-800-272-3900.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So a few more questions. So, my company, Do the Math 24/7, how we break down the math symbols. So what is something, I'm going to ask both of you two, what are something we can add, subtract, and multiply, and by doing that will equal to what? And it could be anything.
Listen, I'm ready because I was ready for this and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss a single thing and be ready for this, all right? And I know, Erica, you said you might ditto it or build on it, but so I would add education and empathy, subtract stigma and fear. Talked a lot about that here. Multiply community action and money, which equals a world where no one faces this alone. and a world with a cure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
It's
that.
hard to add to that. I mean, I guess having my program hat on all the time, the only thing I would say is just, add curiosity, add, a desire to learn, like you said before of, we can all go down that WebMD hole, right? Of like trying to self diagnose. But, the thing that I always tell people, as I said, if you're having memory issues, don't be afraid to go to the doctor, because best case scenario, maybe you have a thyroid problem. Maybe you have a vitamin deficiency. Maybe you have a urinary tract infection. Those can all mimic signs of dementia. But I said, if it is worst case scenario, you're going to feel really great that you went sooner than later, right? So I want people to stay curious. I want them to spread that awareness. And I think, we have to subtract those preconceived notions that we have. Like you said, even though we know that's how our parents saw it or how they did it, we don't have to be like that. We can make our own choices. And so I think that just really multiplies more people that understand the disease, that can provide support for each other. And like Keesha said, our vision is just a world without Alzheimer's and all of the dementias, right? So we just need, we need more people that are willing to understand it and help spread the word.
Yes. I like how, I would say the main theme of this, I would think this conversation is just awareness, but also like a new wave of getting people interested and getting more people aware, not just thinking of an older generation, right? But just so if both you guys can look to the camera, what are some ways, let's excite the camera, the audience, as far as giving them like a mini pep talk, as far as let's create like a new wave to encourage them to at least be more aware. So you guys, it's up to you guys, whoever want to start. So I don't necessarily got to be a pep rally.
Listen,
but just like,
we about to pep it up. Okay, so
I feed off of Keisha's energy. So she should go first.
Y'all, this is seriously like this is our time. Like, we know that dementia it's going to increase in the next 30 years. Right? So that also impacts us right here. Our backyard, your backyard. We got to come together. We got to get educated together. Bring your grandma, bring your grandpa, your auntie, your colleague, your gym buddy.
Come on.
Along with us. And let's work to end this. That's the only way. There is power in numbers. I promise you. And that means us physically, our bodies. There is power in us coming together. There is power in the money that we're able to raise. Because don't forget, it's the research that is going to get us there. We need y'all there. I need y'all there. So I'm asking y'all. I'm telling y'all. I need y'all to show up. And show up in a genuine way. Be ready to be there for the others in that space, in a way of understanding, in a way of, I like to say joy too, because every year we're getting closer. Every year we're getting closer. Every year we're building. We're getting stronger. It's right here in your backyard. Y'all show up.
Yeah. I think for me, it's, stop being afraid. Stop, being scared of the unknown, right? I truly think that knowledge is power. So I think we need to educate ourselves about the disease. We need to not be afraid or have those stigmatisms like, okay, both my parents had forms of dementia, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. I could live in that sense of anxiety and stress and worry until I reach, retirement age. But I want to enjoy my life. And so I always tell myself I could go down the route of asking for a blood test or finding out if I have those biomarkers that put me at a higher risk. But it's not going to change anything because they're not going to treat me until I start showing signs. So I'm just going to focus on being the best person that I can be. And I would say to all of you that if you want your community represented, you've got to show up, and we need everybody to help spread awareness. We cannot do it alone. So, just get rid of those stigmatisms of being embarrassed, being afraid, being whatever it is. And just know that the more we know now and the more proactive we can be, the more that we're going to lead to ending this disease.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Now, did you guys have a gala? Is it coming up, or you guys had a gala?
So we actually have 4 across the state.
Okay. 'Cause I know that was mentioned in one of our emails going back and forth.
Yeah, so we actually have 4 across the state. So the end of April, we have galas in Sioux City and Lamar's.
Okay.
At the beginning of May, first weekend of May, we have a gala in the Quad Cities area. Okay. And then the second Friday of June is our Des Moines gala. So that is... oh gosh, where were we at? 600 in attendance last year.
Yeah.
It's our purple soiree. So purple is encouraged, not required, but it is it's hosted downtown, and it is. Y'all got to be there, y'all. I mean, dance floor, live band. We're getting down. We have Dr. Yogi Shah, who, we talked about is at Broad Lawns, and he also serves on our board of directors. He's awesome in a way of, he's that Alzheimer's expert, right, here. And so we always love hearing from him about what's new, what's happening, what's advanced, and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All I want to say is champagne wall. You walk in for the purple soiree, and the very first thing you see is a big wall of champagne.
Oh, nice.
So you grab one and you make your way down and you get registered, and then you browse it. Yeah, you browse at the silent auction. There's a live auction during dinner, and as we know, such an amazing cause, and every little bit helps.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Would you guys like to share your social media as far as your Alzheimer's Association?
Yeah, so honestly, everything is at Alzheimer's Association Iowa chapter. Okay. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, that's where you'll be able to stay connected with us. Follow us, especially on Facebook. Once you're able to follow us on Facebook, you'll notice that all 19 walks have their own Facebook group. Okay. That kind of branches off from that. So you'll see a lot more engagement happening in the area that you live in, you live in. And so more of what's going on and the things that we're doing in the community too, especially through social media.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And just a brief extension of that, if you go to our website at alz.org and then you do /CRF for Community Resource Finder.
CRF. Okay.
You can go there, put in your zip code, and you can see all of those 60 plus support groups that we have in Iowa.
Yeah.
You can see upcoming educational programs and events that we're having. So that's a great tool to search for services and programs that we have.
Okay, so you are not alone, right?
No.
Not alone. We got you.
You're right. We're doing a virtual education series right now.
Okay.
That is weekly, and eventually we'll go to monthly. But I always tell people, go to our website, find it, enroll. And the great thing is we record every single presentation. So even if you get stuck in a lunch meeting or whatever, right, and you can't make it, I always send out the recording after so you can watch it on a Friday night in your PJs if you want.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Accident anytime.
Yes.
So
that's right.
Well, thank you, Erica, and thank you, Keesha, for being part of the Math Talk podcast. And thank you for educating us, educating the community. And overall, let's just be more aware. Let's talk about it, right? It's just conversation. The more we're aware, right? It's just more peace of mind too, right? The more you know, and get checked up on, right? So, but let's do it together. So, but thank you all again for tuning in for Do the Math 24/7's Math Talk. You can reach me. My social Instagram is @DoTheMath247. LinkedIn is Kenny Lilly, last name Lilly, Lilly, and then. And website 101math247.com. So thank you again for tuning in for Do the Math 24/7's Math Talk. And remember, do the math 24/7.
Hey.